preview skip from this past February, and maybe more relevantly, a longtime SolidWorks user himself, Mark Peterson. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, Sean, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. So you've worked with, for those of you who don't know Mark's worked with SolidWorks outside of these four walls, right? As many of us have. And Mark, if I were to ask you though, in 2023, in the present day, why would you still pick SolidWorks as your tool of choice? What would you say to that question?
Yeah, I mean, I've used a lot of different CAD systems, but really there's two reasons. One is I think it's the best design tool on the planet, first and foremost. And then secondly, it has a fully integrated ecosystem of products, right? So to that first point, I think, SolidWorks is the most widely used, most feature-rich, and most customizable CAD system. It's easy to learn and it's easy to get started. But it also, has advanced tools built into it. So, as your design demands increase, you have the tools that you need to get the job done. However, from a business perspective, like as your business grows, SolidWorks has a suite of tools that are ready for your needs.
And today, right, we're going to talk about some really awesome new functionality. And as we saw in the lead into this episode, you just mentioned this now, we're constantly adding new functionality, right? But today, particularly, that many new SolidWorks users will be able to activate and access beginning in July, adding things onto and into core SolidWorks. It isn't really anything new to longtime SolidWorks users, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So, if you were going to say, let's say we need to start, manufacturing at scale and bring that in-house. We have CAM solutions that simulate the tool paths and that sort of thing. Maybe you're ready to go paperless and add, product manufacturing information data directly to your 3D models. And you can do that with SolidWorks MBD, for example. You can automate creating first article inspection reports with SolidWorks Inspection on that 3D geometry. But maybe you're not ready to go paperless yet or something, and you can just still create those inspection reports just on the 2D drawings. You want to bring injection molding in-house? You have, with SolidWorks Plastics, mold flow analysis that you can get better understanding of your molds. Maybe you want to create your own electrical schematics. Maybe you need to get wire lengths and, route those wires. SolidWorks Electrical has got your back. So maybe you want to create high quality assembly documentation in parallel with your design work using SolidWorks Composer, or create an interactive web page for your customers to help them find that little replacement part somewhere. These are all tools that are part of the SolidWorks ecosystem, and like I said, fully integrated into SolidWorks. So, you can access all these tools, you can purchase all these tools, as your business grows. And I think that's an excellent aspect of SolidWorks that, our competitors just don't have. Now, with the 3D Experience platform, there are even more benefits and capabilities, like, product lifecycle management and, really amazing, simulation analysis tools, just to name a few. So.
It's interesting. I was, you kind of see I was watching along with the video you provided, just really a trip down memory lane. You could even see the interfaces where it had changed, even the resolutions, right? When we used to have different monitors, kind of like we saw in the intro video or the countdown video to this episode. While, the interface and certainly the features and the functionality and the performance of the software has changed and gotten better, a lot of our common delivery methodologies have not changed, and that's true through to today, right? I mentioned in the lead into this episode and showed kind of in a sort of a teaser with my agenda that a lot of the new features, the new toolkit that, a lot of SolidWorks users will have available will be available through a very sort of native feeling for longtime SolidWorks users that add in sort of task pane, pop out, go back in interface. So yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. And you mentioned, this isn't the first time we've done that. Like, it's kind of an a la carte thing. If you need sim tools, you can pop them in. You need access to commonly used hardware, use Toolbox, pop it out, drag a component in, and it's right there, and that's worked. So let's keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's cool to see, like you said, to kind of look back and see how long this has been going on. But, SolidWorks has, has a history of creating these fully integrated tools. And the integration is, I think, the key part there, because it's not something that you have to, let's say, export a neutral file format and then pull it into some other tool. And then, what if the design changes? We've had, let's say, for example, simulation, inside SolidWorks, we've had basically a loop where you could, tell SolidWorks, I want you to change, the thickness of this rib until you get to, let's say, this factor of safety for this product. That tight integration is something that we've always been really, really good at. And, that's not changing, of course. So we're going to continue doing that into the future.
For sure. And it's interesting as we get into deeper dives into a lot of the commonly used areas, but very integral areas, obviously, of almost everyone's workflow here. I think we'll continue to see that. But, elevator pitch time before we get into the specifics. Once again, let's pretend you don't work here, which, Mark, that would make me very sad. But let's pretend you don't work here and I'm a designer or engineer and I'm at a SolidWorks user group meeting somewhere, and I ask you, I say, Mark, give me the simplest idea of why I should care at all about what SolidWorks is releasing to me in July. What would you say? Why is that person going to be excited?
Yeah, so basically, just kind of like what you said earlier. I mean, every new seat of SolidWorks now comes connected to the 3D Experience platform. So, that means, the first major benefit I would say is that, you can easily and securely collaborate with people inside or outside of your organization with, maybe just something as simple as powerful markup tools, for example. And you're going to see some of that today as well. But, if you want to take it a step further, you have access to a secure, password-protected, CAD-aware, fully backed up repository for all your project data, right? So powerful search commands and bookmarks make sure that your data is organized the way you want it to be. And it's easy to move your files around and reorganize them because the platform understands the sometimes complex file references, and it makes them fully visible and transparent to you as the designer. So you can also create and manage revisions and the states of files and so much more. And these are things that you can opt into. It's available for you if you want to use it. You don't have to, you don't have to change anything about what you're doing if you don't want to, but it's there for you if you want to use it. So I don't want to, steal everybody's thunder. We're going to see a lot of really cool stuff on today's show, but yeah, so stay tuned so you can kind of check out more of those things in detail.
Yeah, and even that, I think thematically, as you and I kind of wrap up this little segment here, it speaks to some of the stuff that we were talking about, right? Even think about something as core as assembly mates, right? We've been adding assembly mates as we go throughout the years, adding different options within assembly mates, making them more robust. But it doesn't mean that every SolidWorks user is using every single SolidWorks assembly mate. So just like with these new features, right? You might find, hey, this helps me do X, Y, or Z a little bit better, a little bit easier. And you said a lot of stuff there. So we're going to definitely need to take some deeper dives with some time in different sections. But overall, this segment, this beginning segment, it's all about user experience, right? How can we make the user experience seamless? And that's, I think, at the heart of who we've tried to be in our best days, right, as SolidWorks. So, Mark, thank you so much for setting the stage here for the rest of these topics. As we continue to explore why SolidWorks, for just about every user potentially, can be a whole lot more convenient to use.
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
For sure.
Meetings. I would like to eliminate meetings from my daily workflow. They tie up too much time when I could be modeling.
More of the mundane tasks of having to go through the vault and update file references.
Yes, the work part. Working with a lot of step files, so I get big step assemblies in for a lot of my projects, and I have to dig into the component level at that point, pull that component out, separate it out, and sometimes I forget if I'm working in the separated out that I've already detached from the assembly or if it's within that step.
Yeah, probably going to meetings that could be emails.
More time to design means more projects done.
I'd actually spend the time collaborating with my peers and getting their feedback, and then that would translate just to a better design overall, I think.
If I had more time for design, I think I would just get more of the ridiculous ideas in my head out in the world and just see what they look like.
We would be able to focus our time more on innovation.
I think I would definitely be working on more passion projects instead of just doing the normal everyday things, and really try to express myself through my design work.
Mission for Bowhead is to create innovative, adaptive mobility technologies, from bikes to wheelchairs to you name it, that customer service, innovation, and reliability is our main focus. Bowhead was a one-trick pony in the beginning. We had one bike. I had created the original CAD, so I was just using folders. As the company grew to having more employees, more bikes, more parts, we really needed something for data management. So the 3D Experience platform became a much greater tool for the entire company, from customer service to log things in issues, to shop floor, to engineering changes that they're after. It was this way to bring everybody together and to manage an engineering company, not just to engineer the parts. It was a funny moment realizing that this CAD platform and this 3D Experience platform were more than just an engineering tool, and they became this sort of marriage counselor between operations and customer service and engineering, that it was a way for them all to look at a problem in a focused manner and then deal with it as a team and then solve the problem and move on, as opposed to looking at 3 products with thousands of parts and pulling out your hair as to how do we communicate with each other, how do we deal with this, and now you've got this one tool that can focus everybody on the one issue that they need to deal with over and over and over again. As you grow your company, you really have to grow the way you communicate. So having a cohesive and one-stop shop for communication has been really, from a management side, the biggest addition of 3D Experience platform to the Solidworks engineering platform. It's enabled our assembly people to really see inside behind the glass doors of an engineering room and feel comfortable being part of that engineering team. Whereas now it's not just them learning about engineering, but engineering becomes part of what they do. And it's changed from engineers being, behind closed doors, clicking mouses, to them looking out to the shop floor, customer service, and taking input from them directly into the design without the middle stage of a manager trying to, play telephone game and tell people what they think. That's not how a team works, and that's not how a relationship works. The great thing about the cloud tools from 3D Experience is the accessibility, that it can be on a tablet, it can be on the road, it can be at someone's home, it can be in the engineering department. It brings everybody together, and it's something we never had before.
If that could get eliminated, I think more than anything, it would just alleviate a lot of stress.
We'd be more productive, we'd get more done. Everything would be just that much more efficient if we didn't have to worry about those other things.
I'd probably spend some more time on being more active in forums and directories and helping others out.
It would mean I could try things that I don't think would work.
Actually getting things done in a reasonable amount of time.
Enjoying the process, and also allow me to do a better product at the end, because I'm doing it not with pressure but with passion and with love.
More time to make some more standards, some more starting points to save me from these one-offs that come up. If I could take a little more time to put in the design intent for these things, so that I could come back and easily just put inputs versus starting from scratch every time.
I think if we had more time to design we could release products faster, as well as release products that are that feel more finished.
That'd be nice, because that means I'm not doing other stuff, but
New to SolidWorks simulation for virtual testing of your parts and assemblies, Visualize for photo rendering, and PDM for IT managed local server stored data management. Okay, so that stuff isn't new anymore, but over the years here at SolidWorks, we have committed to adding more and more cross-domain value adds, just like the solutions I just mentioned, to your SolidWorks subscription benefits. And today we are happy to announce, with full-on demos and explanations, what is arguably our biggest ever value add. That's right, for new and upgraded existing SolidWorks subscription customers, we are now introducing tools that will solve problems faced by almost every single SolidWorks user or team around the world. So whereas many of our previously new installments like Simulation, Visualize, and even PDM, which I just mentioned, were relevant to segments of our overall community, what we are going to show you today stands to make sharing files, storing files, versioning and revisioning, and really potentially, if you care to use it this way, so much more, much better and faster for you, your teams, and your customers. And not only will you hear directly from product experts today from Dassault Systèmes, but also two of our coolest customers and partners with adaptive mobility juggernaut Bowhead Corporation and YouTube maker phenomenon Hacksmith Industries. So let me ask you guys out there in the audience, do you ever share files with anyone? Do you have to store files anywhere? Do you have different versions of your CAD files? Do you ever have to make revisions of your products? All right, so pretty obviously there, I rest my case. This episode is for all of you out there today. So to get us started, I want to introduce the product manager in charge of this new subscription-based bundle of goodness, which we are calling Cloud Services. And here he is, Sal Lani. Sal, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me on the show.
For sure. So I want to get into the technicals, the nitty gritty, the when, the why, the how. But hey, before we do, let's kind of ease into this. You told me before the show, on a more of a personal note, and a very interesting personal factoid about you, and specifically with your children. So tell everyone here, like, just a very fun fact about you, the birth dates of your children. There's a particularly odd pattern there, right?
Exactly. So I have my first boy actually was born on January 1st, 2018, and he's 5 years old now. And the second kid's actually my daughter, was born on January 1st, 2020. And recently we had a new baby born on January 2nd, 2023. We missed it by 1 day. Yeah.
Was this a goal, by the way?
It was not a goal. I can swear it's not a goal.
Well, welcome, and I think I speak for everyone here and everyone in the chat. You know, if you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, please give Sal congratulations.
Thank you.
On your ever expanding family, and of course your newborn. We all wish you the best of luck, happiness, and health there. But hey, you know, as far as the technicals and the announcements that we have today, we want to have you here on SolidWorks Live because, of course, you are a SolidWorks user, but you're also a member of the product management team here that's really owned bringing us the functionality that we're about to see today. So firstly, Sal, you know, how would you describe what we're adding to subscription benefits for everyone who purchases SolidWorks beginning in July, and really timing-wise, why now?
Yeah, so the cloud services brings a huge value to the existing SolidWorks user to boost their productivity. And believe me, it goes way beyond just traditional CAD. So you talked about sharing file. So for example, starting in July, in this July release, we are releasing a new feature called Share File. So the ability is basically to share a file and with everyone around the world. And by click of a button within SolidWorks interface, you would be able just like to get the link and share it with external, user. It could be, manufacturer, CNC machinist. It could be a vendor. The recipient will be able to receive the file, and they would be able to receive an email or the link. They would be able to click on the link, and just simply by logging in, they would be able to see the file. They see the model. They would be able to view markup, and not only that, they don't have to do a single installation, no plugin, no installation. Just directly in the browser. And guess what? You don't need to use your personal laptop. You can just use like a phone, a tablet to do the markup. And not only that, you would be able to comment back and share the feedback that you would like to communicate to the originator directly to the SolidWorks user. And the SolidWorks user, they would be able to look at the comment directly from within SolidWorks without having to leave SolidWorks. Just think about like the traditional way, our user probably, I would say they're gonna be still using this way, the paper-based, e-drawings and sharing a file through an email. It's kind of tough to keep track of all of this information because it could be everywhere. Like it could be on a piece of paper. And the beauty
It's
about this one,
interesting.
yeah.
It's interesting. Just it really speaks to me when you say share file. Like one of my favorite parts about this, as simple as it is that we are introducing a feature inside of SolidWorks that is very simply labeled and is super beneficial. And that share file button is no longer, at a sort of functional level, it's no longer that piece of paper. It's no longer your email, right? Share file is in the actual tool that is the originator of the file, which is, for all of us here today, I'm sure, which is SolidWorks. So that makes a ton of sense. I love when new features have names that make a ton of sense.
Yeah, it's actually not only that is the information is tracked. So any comment that the supplier makes on the file, they would be able to track it. So nothing is lost. You can go back and track something. If a mistake happens, you can go back and see who did the comment, what information that was on that file. So nothing is actually lost. And that's the beauty of it. We need to keep a track of everything within a single, unified and organized way. And that's actually share a file. That's my personal favorite. But there are so many different capabilities. Just to name a few, there is actually the whole out of the box hassle-free data management. When you hear that term data management, the right thing that goes to your mind is like, okay, I'm gonna have to deal with file naming and stuff like that.
I have more stuff to do.
I have more stuff to do, which is actually in this release. This capability gives you everything also within SolidWorks: revise, mature, lock, unlock. Just think about like if you don't have a data management system, you're probably going to have to deal with like file naming conventions like I create revision one, I give it a name, I have to move it to a folder, I have to remove the folder, I have to change the reference. All of that information, it's built in right now within this cloud services benefit that comes within SolidWorks. Within SolidWorks, you don't have to deal about this stuff. It keeps the reference. You can revise, you can manage. And that's actually a big value to our SolidWorks user to benefit from it. And of course, there are some other capability. There is like task management. There is like ability to collaborate socially, internally with your community, like with your marketing team, with the management team. All of these capability, it's a great that comes with the subscription benefit with the cloud services that every SolidWorks new user will get in July.
It's interesting the way that you put it. It's almost like you're saying it's kind of like data management for people that hate the idea of data management, right?
Exactly. Just think about the infrastructure. If you would like to manage your own, like there is no IT overhead. We're giving you out of the box data management that don't have to deal with like, maintaining the server, upgrading, and it's all of these things are actually cost a lot of time and money to our SolidWorks user.
And it's interesting within the reveal episode that we're doing today, right? We're going to get a lot into like never before seen demos and workflows that really, especially within the share and markup and CAD viewing style capabilities. Like there's so much, Sal, that you just overviewed. We saw so much capability there. Knowing that it's being added to subscription benefits for purchasers of SolidWorks beginning in July is really amazing. But if I were to distill a little bit of what you said, it seems like the benefits that you just spoke of within what we're labeling as cloud services is pretty modularized, right? Which is to say, you can choose to use some or all of the features and functionality for you or your business as you see fit, which kind of follows a little bit, with the SolidWorks DNA, that we kind of provide as much value to our customers as we can within subscription benefits, but that we ultimately leave it up to you as the customer to choose, if and when you leverage any given part of that, right?
You said it actually right. It's modularized. It's basically tailored to your design and your need. So if we look at this, the cloud service benefit, I can actually choose not to use anything of it. I can go to the simplest way. For example, share and markup. I can just use this one to share with external suppliers, right? I can take it to a next level. Basically, I have it comes with a cloud storage that comes not only with ability to store your file, it also comes with like some ability to iterate on the file. But this is not just a traditional cloud storage that you are aware of. This cloud storage, it's fully integrated with SolidWorks, and it also understands the CAD reference, and it has the capability to understand, and not just like a place where you can store file. It understands the reference of your assembly, drawing, SLT, PRT, all this kind of stuff. And then if you take it to the next level, if you decide to scale up, we definitely can go to the full-on lifecycle data management, where you can, what I just talked about, when you basically be able to revise, you would be able to lock, you would be able to manage your entire enterprise on a single platform. And I also said, like, we all do task on a daily basis, piece of paper. You see behind me, there's like a board. I put my to-do list there. All of these things also available to you from within SolidWorks. So you would be able to have task management. Everything that you do, you can attach it to your task, so you can track everything is done on that file. So it's a lot of benefits. It's a huge improvement. It's a lot of information that our capability, our SolidWorks user would benefit from, for sure.
Yeah, it's a great point. And, in terms of escalating capabilities or differentiated capabilities, certainly you can get almost as Bowhead has said in some of their videos, which we'll hear from them in short little tidbits throughout this episode. You can even get to the point where, if you want to, like, you can have like almost all of your engineering processes sort of digitized easily within the system. Or, like you said, if you just want to share files with your customers, if you want to share them with your vendors, you want to just generate a link, like a lot of our services we use today do, right? You just click a button, you generate a link, and the person doesn't have to have SolidWorks or have anything particular installed other than like a browser. You can do that. So
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned, I was going to ask you what your favorite, the thing you're most excited about, but I think as SolidWorks users ourselves, you and I, we're always excited about the super new stuff, right? The really, really new stuff. And I think that share markup capability that you highlighted there is really going to knock your socks off, everyone that's watching in the audience today. So yeah, Sal, thank you so much for taking time out in a very busy time in your life, right? You're really like personally and professionally to come on with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, everyone. So as Sal just highlighted with cloud services, we've aimed to make each part of your everyday workflows better and faster. And what could be more everyday than viewing, sharing, commenting on, and marking up your designs with your customers, your prospects, your suppliers, and more. And by the way, this is the part of the episode we talked about unveiling, brand new demos, brand new software. This is the part where the new stuff really starts to kick in. But before we do that, before we move into some big time software reveals, let's briefly hear from our customers at Bowhead Corporation, as we will again throughout this episode, on some sharing challenges and triumphs that they've experienced at their amazing adaptive mobility company.
Originally, I just typed up work instructions, took pictures of what I was building as I went, and those were our instructions. Now, with SolidWorks and with 3D Experience, we're able to have much more refined exploded drawings, and then we're able to edit those way quicker, implement them into production, and it's a way easier to read format as well. We quite frequently share information to external stakeholders, suppliers. We're sending them not only our 3D data, but our 2D drawings, also just ongoing continuous improvement. We're sharing parts back and forth consistently. So the 3D data would be for the suppliers to actually produce our parts, but then the 2D drawings go to our suppliers to supplement the 3D model. And then they as well go to an engineering firm that supports our engineering change processes, because our engineering team in-house is quite small. So we utilize the ability to send this data to kind of amplify our workforce. Just like you or I need to custom fit our own bike, so do our customers. And so we've used this tool consistently with our customers that have more specific requirements without the need of bringing them into our shop directly. We can now send that data to the customer in their own home, even have them log in and tell us what would work for them to truly use the bike how it's meant to be. I don't want to imagine not using 3D Experience. It's just enabled us to amplify our workforce and continually innovate at the rate that we come up with these ideas. We're able to keep pushing them through the platform and keep these projects going because of all of the help and how quickly we're able to send this data and receive it, not having to take the time that it takes to email, revise that email, explain the email because somebody got confused. Can't imagine a world without 3D experience right now.
So just imagine, I mean, the doors that this opens up, right? So just like Tatiana mentioned, being able to, which is not really something I would readily conceive of maybe today or yesterday, right? This idea that you can share, click share file, just like Sal said, share file from SolidWorks and actually share them with non-CAD users, people that are just looking to ride some really awesome adaptive bicycles and get their feedback, get their markup, get their comments, just like so many other apps out there in 2023. And you might be thinking, I'd love to get more into this. I want to see, like, how does this actually work? What are some more use cases? Well, that's where we are here in today's show. So joining us here to reveal with never before seen demos, brand new CAD viewing and sharing tools that we know you'll love is Brian Zayas. Brian, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Hey, Sean. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to see the Bowhead video. It makes me want to go outside, go for a bike ride. It's like a beautiful day here in Chicago.
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll have to release some. We got some beautiful shots. So I was actually lucky enough to be out there over in Canada to do this shoot. And so many beautiful places by Bowhead. But even just getting those shots, it was so amazing. Like we had people on roller skates, people on like skateboards trying to keep up with Christian. So it was awesome. But Brian, I've mentioned a few times here on the live program in 2023, actually, one of the most searched for SolidWorks based keywords in the world is SolidWorks Viewer, believe it or not. You know, and it really brings me back to the core of why our 3D CAD and 2D CAD files are created in the first place, right? It's to communicate. It's to communicate something. It's almost like a language unto itself. So for something that's been around for as long as CAD, and you look around, your studio and the office here, it's like it's something that's so pervasive as CAD is with everything that we interact with. The fact that it's such a commonly sought tool or service, like it makes a lot of sense, right?
I love how you kind of get existential with the whole thing, but it does make sense every single day. Sending a SolidWorks part, yeah, it's pretty much to me equivalent of sending like a Word doc, XLS, PPT. And if someone doesn't have SolidWorks redrawings installed or it's not the latest, I mean, that's kind of on you, man. That's your problem. So sure. I'm kind of old school like that. But there's got to be a better way to work better together. And in fact, Sean, I was thinking about this. When's the last time you sent like a Word doc or an XLS? It's been a while, and because I know I know you know a better way. Because when we were preparing for this live stream, you sent me a link on my email so I could jump into the agenda. I could see what you had planned. I could add my comments, do some revisions. In fact, I made a change about 10 minutes ago in the doc. Did you see that? Hopefully you did.
I did, man. Yeah, I'm on top of things. Yeah, I got my docs ready, everything.
You made it easy, even though I had Word installed, didn't matter. You made it easy for me to work with you, and like I appreciate that. So bring it back to like day-to-day SolidWorks users. Sure, I could send you an SLD PRT and then like leave it up to you to search, find a download, trust the download, update the file when I send it to you, and of course like delete it when you're done, right? Keep all my stuff secure. It's a lot to put on your recipient to communicate properly. And it's a lot on me to like manage all these files on my desktop that I've saved a copy of, all the email threads. And you heard from Tatiana, like they don't need more of that. They need to just get the design in front of stakeholders and get the feedback. So that's what I'm really excited about, because everyone out there, customers like you all watching, like Bowhead, they need a SolidWorks like in your face solution to this everyday sharing need. And honestly, that's where SolidWorks has always shined, right? Compressing workflows, automating it with super easy to find buttons in your face. And I'm excited, man, because we can do this all now without even leaving SolidWorks. And like you've been alluding to, this is where the new share a file, aptly named command, this button comes in. That's going to be part of our next functional delivery that's dropping on July 8th. And like you've also mentioned, part of cloud services, that's part of everyone's subscription starting in July when they buy SolidWorks.
Yeah, I was thinking back to your question. When is the last time I sent you a doc or docx file, whatever the extension is these days?
Right.
And why have I not done that? I think we're always longing for that sort of with whatever document it is, whichever line of work we're in. Even if we've never even heard of what SolidWorks is. We're always longing for that sort of single source, like mutually editable, mutually viewable, current, up-to-date source of truth, right?
Yep.
So why would I ever go back to doing that? Like, why would I ever do it that way, right?
And so much of our day-to-day is like through a link, like click this link, do this link, acknowledge this, and like we're just it's going to be awesome when you guys see the demos here in just a moment.
For sure. And I think it makes sense to kind of explore this by this new sharing functionality, right, that we keep alluding to. Firstly, by looking at the ways that we currently have to do things, and how these new features in SolidWorks help us to do these same sorts of things, only smarter and better, right? I think that's a pretty reasonable thing, right? And let's maybe start with one of the first things that we tend to mention here, which is email threads, right? we talked about a little bit earlier, like how does this sort of disrupt the chain of how we do things there?
Oh, listen, there's so much that we can do with the 3D Experience platform with email, especially internally. But let's just back up to kind of the basics here. We're not going to get rid of email, right? We're not proposing that. I mean, that would be like a billion live stream viewers right now if you're doing that. But yeah, what can we do to automate and maybe just make it a lot more efficient, all the associated and adjacent tasks with emailing when I have that use case if I want to share a file or share a design. So I like to back up and think about, who am I emailing? Whom am I emailing? Who am I emailing? I'm emailing someone, and there's a person, and there's a purpose for emailing this person. So let's take a look at some demos. All right. Let's say I'm a Bowhead designer. I'm Tatiana, right? And I'm ready to get some feedback on my work from a couple trusted stakeholders. For example, externally, Sam Supplier. I want to get his fabrication input. Design for manufacturability. Eric Engineer is my boss. I'd like to share this with him too to get his feedback, make sure this fits into his overall vision. So there you can see, share a file, and I can quickly add in the recipients, add a comment, and then some options in there that I'll talk about in a second. Both of them will momentarily then receive an automated email from our system that'll invite them to click through the link and then view, markup, interrogate, and of course download the file. Pretty cool, huh?
Interesting. Yeah. This is a very you love interfaces where it pops up. It's pretty simple. It doesn't give you too many options, not more options than you need. And again, you mentioned you'll get into the few that we do have. They're all there purposefully. But adding an email, right? Adding an email, that makes sense, because I've got some thinking. If that's what you're giving me, it's specifically for the intended parties, right? So they're going to be able to view it. And if I want it to not be viewable by other people, right, then I'm kind of protecting myself there, which is pretty
correct. Yeah, that option lets you either just create a link that I could then send to my whole team or my whole constituency, or the enumerated access that we provide through email address. So, but what does it look like for the recipient? I mean, let's look at what Sam thinks.
Sure.
So if we look at his view of what happens, he's going to receive that email, click through the link. And in this case, of course, Sam is going to have awesome feedback. Of course, he can rotate them all around, take measurements, but here he's going to jump in, take advantage of those freehand markup tools, things like text boxes, and give me some direct feedback on how we could maybe take this two-part design and reduce the stock requirements, the complexity, by maybe breaking it into three pieces. Looks like Eric's already made some markups. He's a little more quantitative. Okay, so he's going to be using dimensions to interrogate, and then they can make a snapshot of their view with all their markups and then write the comment. Now, of course, they can. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's super neat, because I'm thinking again about the use case that Tatiana mentioned in that little interstitial clip before you came on, and this is exactly the type of thing that I would think a non-CAD user, it could be someone who's familiar with CAD, someone who's familiar with the biggest thing I think, even from someone that's gone from like a traditional 2D package back when we used to train SolidWorks users,
sure.
Which we've done so many classes, I know you and I have, jumping from 2D to 3D space. That takes a while to sort of navigate, especially when you have all these different options, in a viewer tool. This one, not really. Like, there's a few different options that are pretty obvious, right? You can make a note. If you're a little bit more savvy, you're more quantitative, right? Like Eric, if you are into engineering, you're making dimensions. But and then all of us, right? We're maybe making comments. We're doing little simple things that we do in other apps, like the app mention people. And we want them to get a little alert. So all of this stuff is accessible, right? If you have Chrome, Edge, you launch it, you log in, it's right there.
It's so interesting too, because we haven't even shared the file yet. In fact, well, let me get to that. But
Sure.
right now we're still not even to the point of getting a file, but we just took a moment and got some feedback without even having to deal with the file. So in that use case, I hope you can all see super easy. And I have another one for you in a second, but let's take a look at what it looks back on my end as the SolidWorks user. I'm still inside my SolidWorks. I've shared the file. There's a notification. All right. And what I can see is right away, click through the notification, open up, and I see all their comments, right? Easy to interrogate. Sam, love the feedback. In fact, real life Bowhead example, they use their fabricator to get feedback. Eric, I didn't like the tone of him questioning my dimensions, so I revoked access for him. Yeah. So that's the cool thing about using that enumerated email access. I can revoke the link at any time. And then on my end, when I look at my task pane, I have this shared with external folder. Okay, so that's going to show all the files that I've shared. And then let's say I want to clean things up. These are some old project files. If you delete a file, the link just goes away. Of course, you can go back and click on any of those items as well, and you can further like add more people or modify the link. So again, right inside of SolidWorks, task pane based, I'm managing all these shares that I've done. So it makes cleanup and organization super simple. But let me,
that's just because I feel like it's important with the everyday stuff that we do. You mentioned like why do I not send you Word, Excel files anymore?
Thank you, by the way. Yes.
Yeah, no problem. It's more about me than for my peace of mind than it is about you.
Oh man, my desktop is a mess. It would just get lost in the desktop. So you don't want that to happen to anything you're sending. You don't want that to happen. So maybe I can go ahead to the next demo, because this commenting is all great and we're sharing and all that. But what about just sending the file? Especially to a fabricator. In this case, you can choose the files. For this drawing, I'm going to actually send a PDF document. I'm going to send it to Sam again. Right in the top right corner, you can see the little download icon we're all used to, and that'll download his PDF. It looks like Sam couldn't help but make some comments on the drawing to clarify what I missed. That's fine. You can actually disable commenting, and maybe I'll do that next time, because I don't need your feedback now. We're past that stage. Now you're gonna make this. So
drawing very sensitive, Brian.
Yeah, it's on you. Well, you want to be clear, you want to be crisp, and do you want feedback or not? I love that you can turn that on or off. Let people do the download. The other use case, I'm thinking back to what you're saying. I'd like to show another demo about just viewing the model, because let's say this, your boss's boss's boss, Elaine executive, she's like, I'm going to an investor relations day today. I need the latest CAD model so I can have people like spin it around and demo it. What I think is awesome is the default file that this command creates is called a 3D XML. And that's exactly this lightweight viewing that you're seeing. That's a 3D XML file that's viewable on any browser using our 3D Play app. What's awesome, works really well on mobile. Like here, I've got it. You guys can go to full screen here. I've got the Bowhead here on my little tablet, and I can use one finger to rotate it around, 2 fingers to pan, zoom it around with the 2 fingers like that. We can explode it. Sorry, it's hard to do and show the camera. I love this explode. Let's just bring out all the pieces. So, this is so awesome to be able to send to Elaine, because you can imagine this, and her being like, great, I'll just click this link and bring it up. Thanks, Brian. Versus...
Is that Brian? Is that an explode view? Like, is that an explode view from the SolidWorks?
It is not. Which is good, because it's not reliant on like having an exploded view already set up. You could just explode it, drag. You can click on any component and show the properties. But I think the most important thing is, like, I didn't have to explain to Elaine, oh, no problem. Here's the pack and go. It's a little large. It's 300 megabytes. And here's the link to download the latest e-drawings. Like no CEO, except for like Jean Paulo, he would obviously have it installed, but like in no other use case would you want to tell your CEO, here's your CAD files. No.
Unless you have decades of CAD experience, then maybe.
Yeah, I think that that's a great use case. In fact, I was telling you the story. Last weekend, I was working on a new shed. I'm going to build a new shed, frame it out in my
Oh,
backyard,
cool.
and I was modeling it up in SolidWorks, of course, as you do. And I sent it to my wife, who's Elaine, the real Elaine, and I just sent
Also
it. I
Elaine.
was checking out this share a file, and I just sent her the share a file. She clicked on it, opened it, and she's like, "Oh, 16-inch on center." I'm like, "Thanks, babe. You've been paying attention." That's right. It was just the framing, so it wasn't that cool. But it was a neat test and just validated, like, yeah, you can send this stuff to a non-CAD person on demand, pull it up, and they can send feedback. Now we're in the same room.
That's cool.
So
Like you showed you showed on the iPad or whatever tablet that was.
it's a no-name technology pad. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. How did I get that wrong?
I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
I mean that.
Like you think about like even like apps like Sheets. There's tons of apps that use that sort of pinching and like kind of you just use your finger to pan motion. Like that
Yeah.
isn't exclusive to CAD. So like in terms of thinking about the transferability and the sort of speed to which someone could actually start using this, like that's really simple, right? So you're not giving someone a billion different controls, different things they have to check on and off for installation, right? It's just like, hey,
Yeah.
you have Safari on your iPad or you have Chrome on your your Android tablet. Great.
I think if everyone here watching doesn't do anything else with like 3D experience for the rest of their life, I think they will all use share a file, because you will find it every day when you're thinking about, oh, I need to do a save as and give this to someone. This is a much better way. In fact, I have one more demo, Sean, because let's go back to sharing the file. And one of the most common things we need to do to get our products built, like this Bowhead RX, is to make let's say a step file. Here you can see the list of files that I can send. Now, default 3D XML, that's that lightweight viewing format, but not very useful for manufacturing. Step 214, I think that's pretty standard. Let's send a step 214 to Sam's supplier. So this is just going to create that save as copy for me. Again, allows me to automate the email, add the comment, and send him that step file right away. Pretty cool. Now you can also, so that's a great example. Like let's say someone doesn't have SolidWorks, or you're not at that point of the relationship, you want to send the file. But of course I can also send them the native SLD PRT file, because we've grown to trust and like each other. Let's just go through this one more time. Let's enumerate the access, enable comments. There's that option I was talking about having comments or not.
I see. Cool.
Here's your SolidWorks file, share that. And again, every time I make these share, they're all listed for me in that task pane. Oh man, I just shared it. Design change time, right? Let's increase the size of that clearance hole for the shock mount. No problem, but I need to now reply to Sam, let him know it's changed. This is really nice. Sully, did a great job thinking about this on the product side. If you hit share a file and it's changed, it's just going to ask you, hey, do you want to make a new share, like for someone else or a different audience, or you just want to update that existing link, right?
Cool.
So when Sam clicks on it, it's just going to go right to this new version. So pretty cool, easy way to update the link with that geometry. So Sean, in all these demos, what did you see? Well, first of all, I never opened my email. I literally never alt-tabbed out of my SolidWorks. There's no email back and forth. The conversation I had with my stakeholders was contained within that share. I could manage the share from my task pane. Just super slick. I mean, it's a no-brainer way to share files, to just share the design in a cool, easy 3D way to get feedback. I'm just super excited. Like I said, I'm already using it personally, and I think just everyone's going to be able to take advantage of this capability. And again, this new share a file is coming out with our next functional delivery drop, or FD as we call them. That's July 8th. So make sure that you're on 3D Experience, or if you're going to be buying SolidWorks after July 1st, every new SolidWorks seat comes with access to this already. And if you're already a SolidWorks customer, thank you. Talk to your reseller about upgrading to the version that has the platform. And you can, again, take advantage of share a file right away.
So I want to spend a little bit of time as we're on this section of sharing files, CAD viewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our viewers know we have a very CAD oriented audience, right? We are SolidWorks after all, right?
Yep.
Our viewers know e-drawings. We've kind of hit at it a little bit here and there. We've talked about some limitations of the use cases there, but again, we talked about how SolidWorks viewer is still so often searched, right? But e-drawings, it's been around for quite some time now. Like I think it's been around since the 90s, right? it's a downloadable CAD file viewer that we still release, we still support today. But namely, like just to put a really fine point on it, Brian, like which gaps does this new feature set fill that eDrawings has apparently been falling a little bit short on?
Yeah, I saw some chat about eDrawings. I have eDrawings on my tablet, right? But you know, I'm expected to have eDrawings installed. Like I literally have all these years of SolidWorks installed. I have eDrawings, I mean 64-bit, 32-bit, 2015, 16, 17, yada, 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 up to the latest. But like, of course I have that. I'm a technical, no, I was gonna say engineer, but you know, pretend to be an engineer so we can create great content for you. But even if you have eDrawings, I still have to get the file to you. And then you have to have it installed. So I go back to like, how do you work better with people? How do you be easier to work with? I could ask you, Sean, sure, man, just go grab download of eDrawings. It's right there. And by the way, if you're using eDrawings today, it's not going anywhere. I hope people don't misconstrue this. Like we are actually looking at the 2024 enhancements to eDrawings. There's a whole project list, and a lot of companies that we work with that I visited, eDrawings is embedded in their process. Hey, that's great. But think about sitting here as a designer and like the 99% of people outside my office that don't have SolidWorks, that I don't want to like describe how to get the viewer. Again, I just want to send them a link. So I don't know if I'd really put eDrawings and share a file side by side, like feature to feature. But what's I think different here, the incremental improvement is in the workflow that you can do, the process, right? Your ability to work easier, to smoother with people, and just more quickly as well, get that design in the feedback. Like Tatiana mentioned, right? They want to share the design with their customers and see what they think. I mean, she could do that in just a minute with share a file. So I'm excited about it. I think it's just going to open up some potential workflows, and hopefully all of you, you know, save you that time, just having that button, SolidWorks simple, right in your face.
Yeah, and you mentioned again Tatiana, who gave some really good insights. I think going back to some behind the scenes insights of what we saw when we were on site, they were really using, and I do the same too. Kind of going from the PC to your tablet to your phone. Looking to access documents. If I'm at my PC, I love having the keyboard there. Maybe I'm in a Google Doc or something, right? So I want to go and I have my phone. I'm like, all right, I have to be on the go, so I have to go edit it there. They were taking stuff from their system, and then they were bringing a tablet out to their shop floor.
Oh, nice.
For assembly, or just because they're a smaller design team. They do a lot for their size, but they're a smaller design team. They're all in-house. They're all in the same facility. So the shop floor is actually right down the hall where they're doing assembly. So they can do that.
There's a lot of technology, and maybe Sean, I know you want to show this Hacksmith video. I can't wait to see it. If you have time afterwards, come back, because we can talk more about maybe cloud services as a whole for the internal team, because there's a lot more that you can do, of course, than just share a file once you all get connected on the same platform.
For sure. Yeah, and one of the most interesting parts, and Tatiana talked about it, we talked about it. One of the most interesting parts about what we're unveiling today, right, is just how many different types of users and use cases that this can apply to, right? I think all of you watching today, or at least most of you, right, you're probably thinking and you're probably using SolidWorks for industry use cases, right, like Bowhead. And those are some of the pretty obvious ones. But like you mentioned, the Hacksmith, right? There are some other people who use SolidWorks for very different purposes that can still stand to use these new sharing, storing, and management features, as you just mentioned, Brian, just as well. And with Hacksmith, you might know them as Hacksmith Industries or the Hacksmith. They make these awesome builds on YouTube, right? They make these awesome builds for their millions of subscribers, their millions of viewers. You might have seen their plasma lightsabers, their Cybertrucks. They've made so many more. But they need awesome CAD, and of course they use SolidWorks for that. And we're really fortunate to have them as a partner. But if they also need, because they have multiple designers on their team at this point, they've scaled beyond just James and Ian. They need collaboration, they need readily accessible storage, and much more. And before the two of us move more into the rest of the new features and functionality that we have to reveal to you guys today, let's actually hear, just like Brian said, let's actually hear from our partners over at Hacksmith Industries on how they manage their CAD, which inevitably, again, it appears in front of millions and millions of people with each upload to YouTube. All right, everyone, we're live here with Ian. Ian, how are you?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks for making the time. So I think, everyone recognizes, I would hope, in our audience, the Hacksmith name from seeing your videos
Yeah.
over the years. But could you tell us how you describe Hacksmith to someone today?
I guess most of the time when I'm talking to people, it's common that they already know what Hacksmith is. So it depends on who I'm talking to of how I have to describe it. But and yeah, that's definitely changed over the years. Of when we first started out, it was the Hacksmith. It was all about James Hobson, the Hacksmith.
I
And
remember.
yeah, these days it's been changing more and more to Hacksmith Industries. The Hacksmith Industries is more of a team, more of a group of people that have come together to create awesome things, and that's the main shift going on here. Is more the shift from the individual, and then into the organization, which as the collective has more power and has more ability um, to make cool things, and that's really our goal, is to make epic technology, make cool videos, and share it with the world.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive to see. I think first as a fan, and then you and I have worked on, I think, several projects together.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to see how you guys have grown from, like you said, originally being the Hacksmith, right, with you and James, and you guys were really the center of the channel, to now you have not only a team of designers, you're taking on such ambitious projects, but also like you have merch, you have products, like you guys have really expanded out to truly, like you said, Hacksmith Industries. It's been pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey, and quite the personal transformation for myself as well, going from doing everything yourself, of all the camera work, all the design work, all the building and everything, to these days I mostly sit in an office and have yeah, more people management kind of things. And yeah, you mentioned the merch. We've got a whole merch team now. That's even a separate company, really. So there's a lot of behind the scene things that go on to make that sort of thing happen. But there's some definitely some exciting things in the pipeline for the retail team. Like, we just made our next generation mini saver, which is a
Yeah.
by itself, and that's very excited about this one.
That's so awesome. Yeah, it's been cool to see too. Like, you're just the projects that you guys have worked on, and of course the types of projects that we've collaborated on, and in terms of the stuff that each of our brands does together. It's often about design. It's often about CAD. And with you guys having different projects, you're making these products now, different videos coming out all the time, and with different timelines on these projects too. I have to imagine, with, like you said, almost at a management level, with you guys having a design team, having, all these hands in different projects with different timelines, pausing and starting and going, right? Like, it can get pretty, like, complicated, right? Like, so what are some issues that, and I ask this to every customer who does almost anything with a design team of larger than one these days, like, what are some issues that you guys have run into, when working together on CAD projects like that?
I'd say the CAD is probably the simple part for us, really. Like you said, we often have several projects in the pipeline at once, and but when it comes to CAD and when it comes to our design process, we're actually pretty fortunate with, again, relatively speaking, our projects are relatively simple compared to industry level stuff. So there's usually just an individual or a small team working on a single project, and that design is also just a one-off. So things for CAD, things get complicated when you have a very large project or design or something with several iterations over many years and many people working on the projects. And for us, that's not the case. Our design cycle is, on average, I guess, three months from start to finish, and then you're on to a new project. So, and that's usually one person. So when it comes to CAD, we're very fortunate in that regard. But like in my past life, I worked a job as an automation engineer, and I was working on a project that it was an automation cell. There was probably 40 other engineers working on it. My assembly alone had 20,000 components, and that was a sub. Yeah. And so that fit into the master assembly, and just the workflows and the design principles and everything could just completely different, because you can imagine opening up an assembly with 20,000 components in it. And this was like 8 years ago. So yeah, completely different mindset. So for us, the collaboration or the difficulties is more of not within the design itself, but getting all the pieces for the video to come together, for the story, for for all the things to test the project with, to get all the components to build it. And a lot of our work it's not as simple as, maybe I shouldn't say this, but not as simple as designing an automation machine where you get your things off of McMaster Car and throw it into an assembly, and it just kind of mostly fits together. We're taking some things that weren't meant to be used with other things and putting them together, and the perfection of CAD doesn't always work in those situations.
But yeah, I guess speaking of the projects, the builds that you guys do, are there some projects that at a design level you guys are really sort of geeking out on lately? And are there any favorite projects that you guys have recently revealed that maybe we can point our audience to today?
Yeah, so there's two things that we're geeking out about these days. There's lightsabers, which I guess we've been geeking out about lightsabers for many years. And yeah, lightsabers is part of why we're here today, really. Yeah, over the years we've done 10 different versions of lightsabers across 4 different unique architectures, and it's come a long way, and we've got a lot of future plans for lightsabers. So our current architecture is basically a plasma torch, which has some advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that it dumps about 50,000 BTU of
Wow.
heat, so you can, and at 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can cut through steel. You can do some incredible things with that heat, but it takes a lot of fuel. So you have to have a large fuel source, and more importantly, a large oxygen source. And our plan is to take that technology and shrink it down into something that you can fit into, not quite this small, but something that's regular lightsaber size. But to do that, we need to move to liquid oxygen, which is a big can of worms. Like there's using compressed oxygen is relatively easy. Using liquid oxygen, you have to have a clean room set up. You have to have all sorts of safety precautions in place. The materials that you're using it's all very expensive and complicated. And yeah, so that's a long-term project that we're geeking out about, and that's part of actually why we have the mini sabers. That we're selling the mini sabers as a crowdfunding method of supporting our real lightsaber developments. So aside from the liquid oxygen one, we're also working on a mega saber and a rocket saber, and I'll just leave those ones at that. The other project we're geeking out about is a battle bot. So we teamed up with a team, and we're working on making a battle bot with this local team, and it's something we've wanted to do for, I don't know, a decade now. So very excited about that project.
That's so cool. Hey, we might have a conflict here. So we do the same. Actually, on an episode of Solidworks Live, our live stream program on YouTube, we did an episode with Witch Doctor and Team Hypershock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but we did that. We're out there in Miami. We sponsored them. We sponsored multiple BattleBots teams, but man, I can't wait to see that. I'm almost scared of that one. It's cool to see. I mean, yeah, like you said, when you think of a lightsaber, you might think of a particular thing, but the ways that you guys are able to kind of mesh design, engineering, and creativity to really just up the ante on the different capabilities. It's one thing to look at that sort of thing and think like, wow, like I need to watch this video, but it's also like a super from a technical standpoint, it's a super admirable thing that you guys are doing. It's like, because you think of all the different backgrounds in my mind, all the different backgrounds of people. And I'm sure you've met so many people from so many walks of life, whether it be in the comment section or elsewhere, who watch your videos and are inspired by them. But, kind of what you're able to do by again, kind of upping the ante on that stuff, I think is pretty neat in terms of inspiring other people.
Yeah, that's one of the main goals here is that with our videos, we want to inspire the next generation of engineers or the next people into doing design work, making things, doing stuff on their own. We have viewers that are 6 years old or students university. There's CEOs that watch our channel. It's kind of all over the map with people that watch our videos, and we our goal is to educate and inspire those people.
Yep. Yeah. My daughter and my son, they do not have YouTube channels yet. They're 4 and 2, and I think I've told you this already, but yeah, they surely have seen some of your videos.
Yeah.
It's like,
it makes me feel old now, but we've got people that we get messages all the time, and sometimes it's people saying, "Oh, you've inspired me to go into engineering," and then other times now it's getting to the point where they've said, "You inspired me to go into engineering. Now I graduated."
That's awesome, man. I mean, yeah, because you really did have an effect, like very evidently, you had an effect on your audience's lives, and I think that's very cool, like far beyond almost anything. And it's cool, like just talking to different people in industry and the sort of content space. That's such a common thread. Like that's something I think that we all kind of look to do, have that effect on the other people in a very sort of extensive way. But I asked at the very beginning of this, how would you describe Hacksmith Industries, right, to someone today? If you were to sort of project 1 year, say maybe even 3 years down the line, how do you, as the COO, right, of Hacksmith Industries, how do you hope to be answering that same question in 1 to 3 years' time?
Yes, we've got a lot of goals here, and I'd say the main thing that we're working on right now is HERC, which is Hacksmith Engineering Research Campus. It's the property that we just moved into, and where we want to take it is turning it more into a mecca of creation. So the ultimate skunk works, and then bringing in other creators into the space and being able to kind of leverage the collaboration, leverage the having more people in one space. That we have all these resources, we have all these capabilities here, and if we bring in more creators, then we can amplify that. So that's one of the goals. As for Hacksmith itself, more of the transition from the individual to the team aspect. So building up the team even more. Probably a shift of our revenue from the advertising side into the merch side with some fantastic products. That's one of our main goals, is to develop the retail team, retail department, and release more tools, more everyday carry kind of things, that products that we truly believe in, that we use ourselves, and their quality. That's kind of what we're going for there. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. Well, everyone watching today, wherever you are, whenever you're watching, make sure to check out Hacksmith Industries. You guys, again, you have these incredible builds, these really cool products, awesome merch, and just growing ambitions. I cannot wait to see and be part of the future that you guys have as it unfolds. So Ian, thank you so much for
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.
So Brian, it was so cool to see that video because or actually, I guess on my end, just to talk to Ian, because it is interesting, right? Not everyone's making lightsabers, of course. Well, maybe we all wish we were, but they mentioned they're not really sharing like their files to like outside suppliers or anything. They do a lot of stuff in house, but in terms of like the need for storage, with a lot of people, working on the SolidWorks files, yeah, like that is the thing they need. They need sort of accessible, reliable storage. So it's interesting to see no matter what you're making.
Yeah, especially they mentioned like the projects that evolve year over year, like long-term stuff. You always want to be able to go back and have access to. I was just thinking, watching that, like, man, I spend all my free time making like shed designs. I did my workbench last year as a live design. I was thinking about a live design for the shed, and I'm like, no way, that's so uninteresting unless maybe I add some combustion elements. So let me get back to you by the end of the year. Maybe we can do a live design and see what I can do.
I'm not sure if Elaine executive would love or hate that, but we'll see. But yeah, it is interesting to kind of get back into the technical unveilings, the reveals that we have today. I think a lot of what we've shown today in terms of new features, new functionality within SolidWorks, and what you've shown, right? You've provably shown us, right, how we have solved, I think, some of the biggest problems facing CAD-based communication, really, I would say, in the history of CAD. But we've really focused so far a lot on external parties, right? With sharing, I think we've said the word vendor, supplier, potential clients, right? Like with Bowhead. But what about you? What about the SolidWorks user? What about your coworkers, your team, right? We all have needs. We have coworkers, we have teams. How are we making working with files feel better and smarter for SolidWorks users and their teams inside of SolidWorks beginning this July?
Well, I think you share a file like we just showed. I mean, that could be used by anyone internally. It doesn't have to be used externally. So especially if you're maybe on an island, as the CAD person or did the design work, I would say start with share a file. But if you all continue your journey with 3D Experience, and you can bring your team along with you, which Justin Burton is going to join us in a minute here, and you're going to really look at some great resources to enable all of you to get up to speed with the 3D Experience platform. If you can do that, get everyone interested in it, there's a ton of value way above and beyond what we showed. For example, I saw in the chat in the beginning, someone was interested in like revision control, branching, I saw merging, and all that stuff is all there when you embrace the totality of 3D Experience and the cloud services. So there's way more than just share a file. But man, I'm looking at the time. We're like at the top of the hour. It's like a whole other episode. So
a lot of stuff to get through.
Luckily, Sean, since you're like amazing and on top of it, as it turns out, you've already done it. So the May live episode, you're showing a preview in the very, very beginning. Excuse me, Ian, maybe you can drop a link in the chat. The May episode really took a step back and looked at just the core benefit of using the platform for storing and revising, especially in that internal use case of a team or a broader organization. So I love this. We can't recap the whole episode, but some fundamental things that stuck with me. We saw Andrew Gross as one of the guests just talk about how you can store the files. And then once they're on the platform, they're fully indexed and searchable. So think about all that beautiful metadata that all of you add in your custom properties to your SolidWorks parts and assemblies and drawings. All that, when you save it to our cloud, is immediately indexed and then searchable and then filterable. So what Andrew showed us in the demo is just how to find the right knuckle piece to complete this assembly, especially when there's 8 results. Well, I can use the tagging and the filtering to get to what's released. So once you really invest in storing your files, you can also have this idea of maturity. Is it released, frozen, in work? And that allows others to just kind of self-serve that much better. Let me see only the released files, maybe date modified, this material. And so it's really nice that the cloud storage that we're providing is completely SolidWorks aware in terms of not just the metadata, but the relations between all the components, so I can see where used and contains.
And Brian, it just to piggyback on that a bit, one of the big focuses within that episode, which we did just last month, right, covering a whole other end of what you have access to, right, or what you have access to, is that we tried to stay within SolidWorks, right, as much as possible. And you can see all this new capability loaded right into SolidWorks, right? So it just comes out within the task pane. You can expand it, right, if you want to show all the relations and the kind of visual mapping between them, open files from relations in more of like a CAD or, sort of native or sensible way. But that was a huge focus, right? It was just trying to stay within the interface, which is actually quite easy. Like you're bringing all this capability right into SolidWorks.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sean. And I guess I wasn't aware if you had like asked them to do that with their demos or not. But I mean, it makes sense. Just like the share a file we were sharing a little bit ago. Yeah, I mean, just the more I can do from within SolidWorks, the better. I have enough applications open. So that's a good point. Right inside the task pane, you can access all of those capabilities.
Sure.
Including some of maybe the more formal or expected tools. Like, for example, Mike Sandy, he showed, hey, I have this knuckle part, but I need to maybe make a new variant or make a new version of it. So he took us through some basic capabilities that we expect, like lock and unlock, which is kind of the corollary to a checkout or check-in in a PDM system. So the platform also allows simultaneous work on a product structure because you can check in, check out, lock or unlock in our lingo, specific parts or assemblies or drawings. So he showed us that, as well as how to make revisions. I don't think he got into branching, but you can branch, you can merge, you can make a revision to your changes.
Yeah. You can well, it's like some weird I'm like watching myself watching.
Yeah, don't watch yourself. Just don't do it.
But no, it was one of the things I really appreciate is not only, you have this task pane that can sort of pop out, like Toolbox does from the side of the screen and drag and drop, like we mentioned throughout the episode, really. But also that, these buttons, we love our shortcuts in SolidWorks as SolidWorks users. If you love to map things, keyboard shortcuts, mouse gestures, the shortcut menu when you press the S key, lock and unlock. So like, even if it's just one person, it's just you using SolidWorks.
Yeah.
Like having additional storage that can, not just be attached to a hard drive. Like I just got a new computer, not having to worry about, having my drive mappings, stay the same or stay similar, and making sure nothing breaks when I get it to a new computer, or, a network drive, having it map the right letter or something like that.
Oh man. Yeah.
It just even if you're just one person using it, there's a ton of value, and it's super easy to kind of set up.
I think so. I mean, listen, SolidWorks is fun. So who was telling me the other day, like SolidWorks is like the video game, like getting to just use it because there's a lot of other software we have to use that isn't as fun. So I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, PDM is fun, but you know what? We've made it like as least painful as possible. And again, try to put it all in your face in the task pane. Mike Sandy right here is actually showing another thing that we use every single day is called collaborative tasks. Which are like your to-do lists. So you can, make projects, you can make tasks, I can assign people to them. What I really love about our version of tasks, because like everyone has a task app, but this one you can create attachments like CAD parts or other project documents. So in that little vignette, Sandy was showing like, oh, you can have this assembly kit attached or these parts attached, and then you can drag and drop and attach what you've done as a deliverable to the task. So again, just making your process that much more, I guess, digital, sophisticated. I really like that.
Yeah. What do we have here? This looks like
this looks familiar.
Mr. Brad.
Yeah, Brad Williamson. He gave us the biggest tease because he started where we he ended where we picked up today with share a file. So he was just sharing. Of course, he has a little bit better tablet posture there. I should learn that, but he was showing us share and markup. Initially kind of in that one use case of let me send this part out, let me get some feedback, and then let the person download it. So really, I would say go back, watch the May episode, and you'll kind of end that where we picked up today. And you should have a really good feeling for just like, what is this whole 3D experience thing? And of course, after today's episode, what is the share a file? And Sean, one thing I wrote down, I was rewatching this episode, and you said something really, really poignant to me, which is like, there's all these things that take us away, pull us away from SolidWorks, whether that's alt tabbing to do your email or go into another interface for PLM. We got to reduce that. We want to stay in SolidWorks as much as I can, have my design work up, and just do that great stuff that we love to do. So I think that's what we're doing here. I think I'm really excited. I really hope everyone here watching can think of a good use case for just share a file and, just sometime this year, try it out. And if you want a better way to do data management, to store, revise your files, or control and manage, there's so much you can do with 3D Experience just out of the box. So definitely investigate it. Talk to your reseller and learn more about, how you could implement it and get going. But there's also a lot you can do to self-serve. There's so much good content, and I'm excited to see your next guest and learn more about what that content looks like.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully, right. I can say for Brian and I think all of us here at SolidWorks, we are very excited. Seen some awesome messages in the chat about the capabilities that you guys will get into, even probably far beyond things we've even thought of. So Brian, thank you so much for jumping on, man.
Thanks, Sean. See you.
All right, so you guys are probably itching to really get started, which will get us to our next guest. But before we do, let's briefly hear from Bowhead Corporation once again here on how they've already taken advantage of some of the storage and product revision tools coming to SolidWorks subscription within their own design team.
We are using the platform to store all of our CAD data, all of our test reports and non-CAD documentation on 3D Space app of the platform. We use the maturity states to control if a particular document or a part file or a drawing is being worked or if it's released. This kind of helps us to understand what is the latest revision or what is the latest state of a drawing or a file. So prior to using the platform, revision control was basically renaming your part file to be revision 1.1, 1.2. There were instances where there was a final revision, then there was a final revision. So we were using computers, but it felt like we were using Stone Age technology just to manage revisions. When you're working with a complex product like ours, it is very important that you stay on top of the changes. And changes can come from a lot of places. It can come from your shop floor, it can come from the designers, or it can even come from your customers. So it is then important to understand how easy or how difficult it is for you to change something in the system and how a simple change affects every other thing, be it in your assembly or be it in your processes. Platform interface was based out of a browser, so it brings in familiarity of the browser to your day-to-day interaction with it. One of the things that I really enjoyed was giving access to the platform to other non-CAD users in the company who needed to be a part of the platform because they do so much with the data that is on there. And I didn't really have to hold their hand and teach them. I just had to send them a link where they created their user credentials and they started using the system like pros from day one.
So awesome to hear from just the different teammates over at Bowhead. They are lucky to have an outstanding team. But once again, you guys might be thinking, cool demos, right? Awesome capabilities, it seems, makes sense. But are there any instructions for any of this? Any how-to videos, documentation, someone who can maybe advise me on what, if anything, to use from what I saw today in my own company? Well, joining us here to talk about all of this and more is my friend Justin Burton. Justin, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Hey, Sean. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, man. So Justin, you have a new team, right? The customer adoption team. And though you guys have been members of the community for some time individually, this might very well be the first time that many of our audience members are hearing of the customer adoption team at SolidWorks. So I'll ask the obvious here. What exactly does the customer adoption team do here, and why was it created?
Well, first of all, I like the comment. Being around the community for some time it's a very polite way of saying you're old. So thanks for that. For me, I started using SolidWorks in the 90s. A lot of good things happened in the 90s, but
yes,
for me, that guess confirms everything. You're right, I'm old.
I think so. That's fair.
So I can't run away from that. My children also, they make me old. Like myself, though, not the old bit, but the experience side. The adoption team has a great blend of experience, having worked at customers in a number of different industries, at different resellers, and even our competition in the past. And not only are they SolidWorks and process experts, but they're also some of the best 3D experience kind of people as well that have the most knowledge or a lot of knowledge in this. And it's great to be part of such an amazing team that means that we can help guide our partners and our customers. But you did ask what we do. So for that, as far as what we do, the adoption team itself, we sit in the middle of the Dassault Systems brands, the local geo teams, partners and customers, kind of right in the middle there. And our goal is to help customers to adopt our solutions and to help our resellers help our customers adopt our solutions. We do this through lots of activities like knowledge sharing, getting feedback, prioritizing that feedback with help from partners and clients, and then working with the R&D teams and other teams to improve what we do. And last of all, we try to measure as well. So if we can understand more about what we do and how it impacts, then we can obviously do better to improve that.
Makes sense. And Justin, I can imagine, our audience is probably super excited, I hope, to dive into some or maybe all of what they've heard about today, included with new and upgraded SolidWorks subscription benefits, as we've said throughout the episode here. But, what are some things that you guys have done to make getting started, however that looks for any of our customers here, feel sort of obvious and seamless?
Well, obviously knowing where to get help and to get started is super important. When it comes to sharing, it's obvious, right? But when it comes to share and markup, for example, customers will want to know where they can get access to use that functionality, and they want it as soon as possible. I'll look at a couple of scenarios. The first one here is someone searches, you mentioned it, SolidWorks viewers or something else around SolidWorks, and they land on the .com website. They could see all of this new great stuff about cloud services. And they'll want to know straight away, how do I access it? What are the benefits? How do I get to these benefits? Well, for the first time on solidworks.com, we're adding access to tutorials that directly help you get started with cloud services. And we call this, only internally, but we call this the How website. And when you're going to go to this website, we'll first show you how to get access and to activate cloud services, what the basic setup needs are, so like inviting other users if you've got multiple people in your teams, assigning them roles, giving them access to the software. And then depending on what you're looking to do, whether it's share and markup or store and revise, we give you learning videos about how to set up for it and then how to use those tools to achieve those goals. And for all of this content, we went for a personal approach. Each video is designed as a kind of a step-by-step guide to handhold you through each specific workflow. And overall, what we're trying to do is guide you through all of the steps that you need to achieve the value that you're looking for, the value that you saw on what we call the Why website. Again, kind of our own internal names. But on this new website, we're going to, as I mentioned, provide you with content to learn how to activate and access cloud services, how to set up, and then how to use them. So how to share and markup, how to store and revise your designs. And we'll also show you productivity tools to help you compare and review designs and some other kind of tips. And finally, as the value offered for managing control, so you may have been thinking, why didn't I talk about that earlier? But the value for managing control, sometimes with customer needs and requirements, it's probably likely to exceed what we can teach on a website. We don't ignore it though. We show you what is possible. And we promote a clear call to action to speak with a reseller as they can provide a tailored solution for cloud services to meet your needs. Now, the second scenario is when you're already in, so you've accessed the platform. You land and you get to see what we call this default dashboard. It has all the key apps and information that most people need to get started. A key part of this dashboard is what we call the welcome app. Here you can access your apps and you can learn how to use them, and you can access public communities. If you expand this learning center here, you'll get information including like common tasks. This one, for example, is showing how to do comment, how to do markup. And then for each role, there is official training content here. And all of this content, like all the content we're showing, is responsive to the roles that you have. So if you're assigned a new role and you get some new information, some new apps to use, then that content will be developed and shown on this website. For more information and help getting started, you can see we have direct access to the Getting Started guide, which is in our public community wiki. It's got some great content. We've simplified the organization of it. We've made it easy to access things like related content, role learnings, and best practices, which we call solid practices. This is just a great resource for getting started. And each page of this explains how to solve like the task in hand, and then it provides related content and obvious next steps along your adoption journey. All of these videos, they're going to be added to the public YouTube channel as well. So they can help you find the information that you need wherever you are. You shouldn't always have to be looking for where to go. Wherever you are, we should be delivering the content to you.
Yep. All the more reason to hit the subscribe button now. I always like to do that, Justin. It makes me feel like a real YouTuber, like Hacksmith, right? But yeah, it's great to see we've made so many, and kudos to you guys, right? You and your team, you've made so many self-service resources and preparing our community to be able to, again, take on some of this. You know, if you're just looking to leverage some of the sharing capabilities, great. One button, click a link, great. But if you're looking to get more in depth, we have like a full pathway, you know, everything kind of covered, whether, you know, written documentation is your thing, or if you're more into videos. I know we all have our different preferences. It looks like you have us covered. And I did want to shout out, you know, and we'll send it in the chat once more. Just go to solidworks.com/it's time. So right now, what you'll see some explanations of the functionality, some sort of video vignettes and demos. But when that change happens in July, you'll see just what Justin showed. So that link, solidworks.com/it's time, will get you to the tutorial videos and everything else that Justin just spoke of. And Justin, again, it all looks great. You know, I think for those of us who have been part of the Solidworks ecosystem for a while, you know, you guys out there in the audience, you're probably guessing that this is the part of the show, right, as we kind of wrap up here, where we might suggest, as you mentioned just a moment ago, potentially getting in touch with your reseller partner. And Justin, given all the great materials that you guys on the adoption team have created, can you tell me how or what a partner can help me with, you know, if I'm a Solidworks user watching this show today?
Sure. I mean, I used to work at a reseller, so hopefully I'm in a good position to answer. So I think, you know, when we think of them, we may think of product training, tech support. You'll think of SolidWorks expertise. They are like all of those things, but they offer so much more, especially if your company has specific needs, complex workflows, different requirements, you know, that are specific to the way you want to work. They can help you by providing a tailored solution. They can help you plan, obviously implement. They can build out SOPs, standard operating procedures, and they can provide you business reviews, continuous guidance, support. I could go on and on and on with all the things
Sure.
that they could offer. And it is all about that tailored solution that meets your needs. Cloud services will be the basis of it, and it's fully scalable tool set, and that's where the partners can really offer value to you. So if you want to plan for and ensure successful implementation and adoption for any of the solutions, a reseller is your best bet. If you don't know who they are, you can head over to the website and you can find your local reseller. But definitely working with your reseller, I'd say, is the way to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. I think you guys have us well covered. I'm sure those videos, which currently, because like you said, they're not public on YouTube, the site is not exactly live yet, right? But when we make that switch over in July, so many people will be seeing Todd's face, right? We're seeing so many byproducts of all the great stuff that your team's created. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
For sure. All right, everyone. So thank you very much to our awesome customers at Bowhead, our partners at Hacksmith Industries, and all of our presenters today. And hey, if you want to learn more about what Bowhead has done in terms of working better, faster, and together within their team with the power of cloud services, we actually had their team lead, Sanket Patel, sharing his screen on SolidWorks Live Design very recently to show you firsthand exactly how they've digitized their engineering processes en route to making some amazing bikes. So they're on the far end of adopting some of these new tools and cloud services. They've really gone to like the furthest extent. You don't have to do that, but if you want to see, you know, what more is possible, Sanket is an amazing presenter, and that episode is live on our YouTube today. And remember, as we've said throughout this episode, you can head on over to solidworks.com/it's time. So that's solidworks.com/it's time. We'll put that in the description of this video as well as the chat for your one-stop shop on informational resources to quickly get you started with any of the new benefits to subscription services that we saw today. So thank you to our producer, Ian, our production team at Kramer, and of course, all of you out in the audience here today. So as we wrap up, I'll pitch it to one last nugget of wisdom from the team at Bowhead for our outro. And for more content all throughout the year like this one, be sure to subscribe. We will see you shortly.
Everything we do, communication, documentation, processes, tools, they all go into the quality of the bikes that we send out the door. When we started, we had to create a company that was going to be sophisticated enough to produce quality product like the bikes that we build. And so take it out all the way back to engineering. What we have to do when we start is we have to make sure our CAD models are of high quality, that they're modeling them correctly. We had Solidworks, so that was fantastic. But right away, you're like, well, we got to manage this CAD data. So one of the things for sure in terms of managing CAD data is managing change. Super important, obviously. We have to make sure that our changes, and they come from everywhere, come from the builders, customers, quality issues, their suppliers. We have to manage that. Being in a managerial role, we want to use a platform that provides some transparency amongst the team from engineering to operations. I think that's really important that we are open in that and we're not falling into silos so that everyone's on the same page throughout the company. It's about control of our parts, control of our inventory, control of our bills of materials. I know control sounds like a bad word at times, but for what we're doing and to maintain the quality of our product, control is really important. But we have to do it in a Bowhead way, in a way that works for us. We're not a big company, but we have to have a certain amount of structure and control. So the platform has been really useful for us in that way. Having that really high quality information to start with, high quality CAD, and being able to manage that allows us to use it for so many different purposes and all within the system and sometimes outside of the system. Truly, we could not grow our business without SolidWorks. That's the tool we use and we need.